And only a Muslim can explain the world today. A Jew cannot do it. A Christian cannot do it. A Hindu cannot do it. A Buddhist cannot do it. And all the scholars in the University of Princeton cannot do it. Only a Muslim can explain the world today. But it has to be a Muslim who knows how to study the Quran, who has the proper methodology for studying the Quran. And I was blessed, it was a great blessing, to be the student of a teacher who taught me that methodology. His name was Maulana Dr. Muhammad Fadlur Rahman Ansari Rahimahullah. And he established the Alimia Institute of Islamic Studies in Pakistan, Karachi, where I studied. And he died about almost 40 years ago. But because of what I learned from him, I can say today that only a Muslim can explain the reality of the world today. Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam told us that Allah created someone and then programmed him, using computer language, programmed him to impersonate the true Messiah. And so he's known as Al-Masih al-Dajjal. Dajjal, the false Messiah. And since he has to impersonate the true Messiah and convince the Jews that he is indeed the Messiah, he will have to do what the true Messiah will have to do, namely rule the world from Jerusalem, from the state of Israel. In this book, which was published 10 years ago, Jerusalem in the Quran, we said that he would have to liberate the Holy Land. Liberate meaning liberate for the Jews. Why can't they understand that? Liberate means liberate for the Jews. From our perspective, it's not liberation. The Holy Land is now in slavery. Why can't they understand that? He's already done that. 1917. This is the implication of the British victory over the Ottoman Islamic Empire, the army, in 1917. He will have to bring the Jews back to the Holy Land to reclaim it as their own. He's already done that. Between 1918 and 1948, when Britain ruled over the Holy Land on a mandate conferred by the League of Nations. He would have to restore a state of Israel in the Holy Land 2,000 years after Allah had destroyed it. He has already done that. Israel was born in 1948. He'll have to cause that Israel to grow and grow and grow in a short space of time to become a superpower. He's already done that. And he'll have to cause that Israel to replace the United States of America in the same way that the United States replaced Britain as the ruling state in the world. So that in the same way that Pax Americana replaced Pax Britannica, so too will Pax Judaica replace the current Pax Americana. He's on the verge of doing that now. And so he was released into the world a long time ago. A long time ago. But in addition to weaving this web of deception, in consequence of which he will ultimately rule the world from Jerusalem, and get the Jews to believe that he is indeed the true Messiah. In addition to that, Allah programmed the Dajjal to test every human being on the face of the earth. And after studying ilmu akhirul zaman, or Islamic eschatology, for many, many years of my life now, I have now realized that we are being tested by Allah through the Dajjal, and that mankind has only two choices before them today. Either you remain faithful and loyal to Allah and faithfully follow Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, or you're going to worship Dajjal. This is the realization that I have come to. And I'll give you examples of how he tests us. I can give this example because I have studied international monetary economics. I've done it at 2 universities. I wrote this little booklet here, The Gold Dinar and Silver Dirham, Islam and the Future of Money. After giving this lecture at Masjid Umar ibn al-Khattab in Damansara Heights 4 years ago, Dr. Suleiman Mahbub, who is the Director General of the Prime Minister's Department of Economic Planning, was the chairman of that lecture. And after the lecture was over, he and the others asked me to write this. And they said, please write it in not more than 50 pages, because the Malay are not going to read it if it's more than 50 pages. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us money. The money is in the Quran. The gold dinar is in the Quran. The silver dirham is in the Quran. Yes. And Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam also gave us money in the Sunnah. And money in the Sunnah is dinar and dirham. And when there is a shortage of dinar and dirham in the market, then he said gold for gold, silver for silver, wheat for wheat, barley for barley, dates for dates, salt for salt, equal for equal. All 6 were used as money. We don't have the time to analyze the hadith, but from this hadith we know that money in the Sunnah was either dinar and dirham or commodities of food consumption, which were in abundant supply in the market and which had a shelf life which were durable. In all 6, the value of the money resided inside the money. So money has intrinsic value. In all 6, the value of the money was created by Allah. And He alone creates from nothing. He is Khaliq, the one who creates. He is Fatir, the one who creates from point of origin, so the originator. But in addition to that, He is Badi'us Samawati wal Ard, the one who creates from nothing. Only Allah creates wealth from nothing. And this is the money that we had until that civilization came along to test us. And with their scientific and technological revolution, they got military power like no civilization in history ever had. And they came and they overpowered us and colonized us. But they never decolonized until they had put in place the institutions with which we were to be tested. And so they took the gold and silver coins out of the market. And then they created an international monetary fund with a charter, which even Dr. Muhammad Mahathir had not read, because he did not know that the charter, the Articles of Agreement of the International Monetary Fund prohibited the use of gold as money. He didn't know that. It was a revelation to him. So they took this money out of the market and they replaced it with something else. They replaced it with paper currencies. When you study international monetary economics, as I have done, you will come to the conclusion very easily that this paper currency and the electronic money which is taking over from it are bogus, are fraudulent, and haram. But there are scholars of Islam who are dependent for their bread and butter, and so they can't talk. And there are others who have not studied monetary economics, and they didn't find anything like this in the books of fiqh that were written 1,000 years ago. So they're living in a world in which they are incapable of forming any opinion. And so they say, well, since all the scholars hold the view that this paper money is halal, I can't break ranks with them. No. You take a piece of paper, and if there's anyone present here tonight who wants to challenge me, by all means, please do so. I'd welcome it. You take a piece of paper, this is after September 1971, when Bretton Woods collapsed. You take a piece of paper and you print a picture on it, and you put a number on it, and you say abracadabra, and you assign to that piece of paper an entirely fictitious value. So you created wealth out of nothing? This is what the Prophet said that he would do. He wants you to worship him instead of Allah. And so long as we keep on using this paper money, including Imran Husein, so long as we keep on using this paper money, we are accepting him and worshipping him rather than Allah. Which is why the Prophet said, the time will come when a man, a believer, in order to preserve his faith, would have to flee to the mountainsides where rain falls and take with him some sheep and goats. Now, we don't mind if other scholars argue that the paper currency is halal, because people should have the freedom to speak. And when you argue the case for the paper money being halal and the electronic money being halal, you know, with the electronic money is even cheaper. You don't need a printing press, you don't need paper, you don't need ink. With electronic money you simply type it in and type it out. If you consider that to be halal money, and people want to accept your opinion, they must have the freedom to do so. We must preserve the freedom of people to accept that belief. And if people do not want to accept the view that I represent, people should have the freedom to reject my view. All right? However, the time has now come for me to say that if you make an attempt to come after me with boxing gloves, and you make the mistake of attempting to silence me, rob me of the freedom to speak and to teach. That's all I do. I have no Jamaat. No, that's all I do, I teach. If you make the mistake to do that, to silence me, to marginalize me, to demonize me, then I will show patience for as long as I can show patience. And when I can no longer show patience, I will then challenge you. And shame on you on that day if you do not stand up and accept the challenge. And the challenge that I'll offer is this. I am saying that this paper money is haram, bogus and fraudulent. And you are saying that it is halal. So come, and let us both raise our hands and pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to curse with an eternal curse and to punish with eternal punishment whosoever is wrong between us on this issue. I hope and I pray that I never have to do that. History is going to end not only with this mysterious figure moving towards ruling the world from Jerusalem, but also testing mankind with what Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam described as the supreme test of all. Not even the companions of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam ever had to experience the kind of test and trials and imtihan, examination, that we in this age have to experience. Since this is the supreme test and trial, it follows that this is the age when we need the best scholars of Islam ever. The institutions of Islamic learning today, as presently constituted, cannot deliver it. The International Islamic University in Malaysia, regardless of what pious intentions there may have been in creating it, cannot deliver that kind of Islamic scholarship which can explain the reality of the world today and warn our people. If I had the time, I could turn to the rest of the economic challenge, the banking system. The banking system, the money being borrowed and lent on interest. If I had the time, I could turn to the political challenge, to the modern secular state, and to its claim to sovereignty, and the implications when we go and vote in elections to create a government that will now preside over a state which declares that sovereignty no longer belongs to Allah. It now belongs to the state. This is what Islamic scholarship has to do. History is going to end, however, says Islam, when the true Messiah comes and he's going to kill the false Messiah, Dajjal. So Dajjal will have to be born from Jewish parents. I don't know when he's going to be born. And he have to grow up. Said Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, he'll be a Jew. He'll be a young man, he'll be powerfully built, he'll have curly hair. I don't have time to talk about his eyes, but there's a book of mine entitled Suratul Kahf in the Modern Age, in which I have analyzed the eyes. And he's going to stand up in Jerusalem and declare that I am the Messiah. At that time, when he does that, there will hardly be any water left in the Sea of Galilee. What is Imran talking about?